So good morning all. Now we are playing ICI Moto song. I request all the participants to put their right hand on their heart. If there is a problem, then I also can play.
Okay, Bishan bhai, you play.
Yeah, please.
I think it is not audible.
Chairman of Ahmedabad branch, CA Fadil Shah, in his absentia. Uh, Today's learned faculty, Ms. Sudha, and our chairperson of the committee, CA Anjali, Dr. CA Anjali Choksi. Good morning, all. It's really a great pleasure to see the smiling faces in the Saturday morning. Uh, and definitely we are going to learn something new because I haven't heard this word equity modeling. So it's a pleasure to be part of this deliberation. I'm not taking much of time. I request CA Dr. Anjali Choksi to take it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhishan Bhai, for sparing your valuable time on Saturday morning. Uh, I welcome the esteemed faculty for today, Sunita ji, Shubha ji. Credits to Kruti for arranging this session. And we are glad that both the esteemed faculties have given their acceptance right on LinkedIn. And they were so much passionate to take this session. We are glad to have you on Ahmedabad branch. I would like to tell you more about Ahmedabad branch. We are a family of more than 11,000 chartered accountants with 25% women chartered accountants. Every Saturday, we have this kaleidoscope session wherein we have this inspiring CA faculty give us some tips to take the profession ahead. So, welcome all dear participants once again, and we are getting overwhelming response. Keep motivating us. We'll keep on doing such sessions for you. Last thing, I would wish one of the committee members, CA Hema Shah, a very happy birthday. And our party is due. We will soon have the party next week with all the committee members. Thank you for being present. And I would now request CA Kruti to take the session ahead.
Thank you so much, Anjali. A very heartily good morning to each one of you. It is rightly said that half of the battle is already won when
I
a
guess someone's mic is on. I request all to mute this.
yeah, is it fine now?
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay, yeah. So once again, good morning to each one of you. What I was saying is, it is rightly said that your half of the battle is won when a woman is on your side to support and to support you, because without a woman by your side it is not possible to go ahead. Modeling gender equality is different thing, but when a woman is there with you, it is just an incompatible. So today we are here with a dynamic duo behind AGUA, which is done by Sunita Vikram and Sudha Pandian. Heartily welcome to each one of you. Now let us have a formal introduction of both of them. We'll begin with Sunita. So, she have 2 decades of professional experience across various industries, hierarchies, and global regions. The paper version of her looks drained good, and almost every interview has landed her the job. However, her real strength and courage shows up in the untold story in the quiet spaces between the accomplishments of her resume. In the space, she would talk about her unstoppable self determination and willpower to face her fears and self doubts when her personal situation did not lend itself positively to her aspirations. She would talk about self disruption and creative ways she used to overcome her self limiting benefits attached to being a single mother, caregiver, professional, to resilience herself again and again. to find her inner spirit and live her life with passion and purpose. The why of AGUA comes from their very story, which she transformed this narrative from being one of disempowered victim to thrilling resilience and empowerment through self-love and self-leadership with the help of an amazing sisterhood from all parts of life. She feel it is the need she feel it is the need of hello, am I audible? I guess there's some network issue. Just a second.
No,
She
no, you
feel
are
it.
audible.
Yeah. She feel it is the need of our hour to help other women find their voice and their truths, thereby gearing strength and spirit in the collective. To her, this path e- emulates the very heart of the evolving narrative and women leadership. Heads off to you, Sunita. Now let's begin with Subha. Visionary, catalyst, entrepreneur, activist, coach, mother, seeker, and whatnot. From corporate cog to an entrepreneur, a pleasant side effect of her line of work is that she's coached herself into exciting achievements. She is a qualified C-suite business optimization professional with passion for excellence in every walk of business with a career spanning almost 2 decades, during which time she has tactically balancing her work that she demands of single parenting and building a women's support group, which has touched over 8,000 women from diverse backgrounds. She is the straight talking escape, pump up bestie you always wish for and who's always got your back. She is a rugged biker, an adrenaline traveler, and go getter. She is one of many women who has tasted life in all of its colorful sense. Her mission to help women create a vibrant, fulfilling life, one that you are actually excited to get out of bed in the morning for, and that genuinely makes you feel like the stunning, powerful being you are. Activating and elevating the potential of others is at the heart of her business model. So she participates in mentoring programs, pro bono events, and panels, and also support organizations dedicated to this mission. Thank you so much, Subha and Sunita. So now I would like to hand the session over to you both. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kriti, for that long introduction of us. I think it's it's been ages somebody read about ourselves for such a long time. You know, virtual world is becoming restless. People don't have time to listen to all of it, right? So thank you so much for that warm welcome and happy birthday to Hema. You can involve us in the party as well. Very
Yeah,
good.
sure.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's session. I know the topic kind of sounds very serious, but we'll try to make it as engaging as possible so we all get to talk. I would highly encourage each one of you to talk. Unmute yourself and talk if you have any questions in between, or you can leave your questions in the chat box and we could discuss at the end of the session. So this particular topic of modeling equity, what is equity all about? So I'm going to talk to you a little bit of science behind this whole thought process. There is a particular part of our brain, it's called the limbic brain. The limbic brain is a structure which is interacting areas with, you know, it is involved with your motivation, your emotions, all your thoughts and things like that come from that one. And this plays a very important role. I'll tell you where it starts an important journey. We were all cave men and women at the start of the evolution process, right? And we all started living in groups, clans, and tribes. And one of the things which was very, very comfortable was we started dressing up the same way, we started painting our faces the same way, or we lived in groups, right? So the familiarity of the way we dress and the way we paint and everything gave us a lot of comfort. And the moment you see someone else dressed differently. Like in the picture, you see everybody is dressed with some animal skin. But if you see someone wearing some leaves or something like that, then you immediately figure out this is not from our clan. This person is from a different clan altogether. So the first sense that you get in your limbic brain is like a sense of fear. And you want to, oh my God, this person is from a different clan, or they look different. So you create that fear inside you and you want to say, oh my God, I don't want them to steal my food. Right? So you become the brain, the limbic part of your brain gets into that caution mode. But what is happening right now is we come out of those caves and we are completely diversified across the world in fancy ways. We look different, we dress different, we speak different, we cook different, we eat different. Everything is become different. Now, as human beings evolved, when the technology evolved, we're all good, right? Technology evolves, TV comes in, mobile comes in, internet comes in. We are all evolving at a very, very fast pace. But this limbic brain is still stuck into that caveman period, and it is still struggling to figure out if something new happens. That's what happens, when you're in your friend circle. The first question you try to do is you try to put people, you try to familiarize with them. First question you ask them is like, which city are you from? You're from Dehradun. Oh my God, I'm also from Dehradun. Are you from Chennai? Yes, I'm also from Chennai. Then the next question would be like, you would be very comfortable if they are speaking your same language. If you're speaking Hindi and somebody is speaking Urdu, then feel that difference, right? Or if you the third question we might ask is, what's your sunshine, man? Are you an Aryan? Are you a Gemini? What exactly it is? All of these questions gives us a comfort and a familiarity that, okay, this person belongs to my clan because he speaks my language, he looks like me. And if you look at it, we always have this clan being built. It's because of our limbic brain. Now, why are we talking about it in this particular equity part of it, right? I'll talk about it. Um, so, what is equity? We all understand equality. That means everybody gets the same kind of treatment, right? Like if you look at this picture that I present here, everybody gets the same block and everybody is able to watch the match very clearly. But again, you see that is a tiny little one. He is getting that box, but then he's still not able to watch the match. But in equity, it's not about equally giving that opportunity, but finding out where someone needs an extra help and being fair and being impartial. So you can't give the same apple to everyone. Some might need apple, someone need oranges. So equity is about leveraging someone with the right kind of tool, a right kind of environment, a right kind of infrastructure, everything. So in this particular picture of equity on the right side, you would see that everybody is able to see the match. That's the output that we are expecting. The output is not giving everybody that boxes. So it's the quality of being fair and impartial. Now, in a workplace, this is very, very important because you have different kinds of people coming and working. Physically, they are different, tall, short, fat, thin, and different kind of people. Intellectually different people, culturally different people. By gender, we are different people. By generation, we are different people. Now, for an organization or when you work in a group, when you work in a team, it becomes very imperative for you to be fair and impartial. That means you need to build equity there. Now, equity is showing an extra care. Why it is very important, right? Like going back to the cave period, all of the cavemen are going for hunting the same way. All of them have the same tool. One person is getting the food, another person is not getting the food the first day. Okay, so they come back. So they are okay with the first day. The second day, the same thing happens. The first person gets the food, he's able to hunt an animal or get some fruits, but the second person is not getting it. So what happens? Now the limbic brain goes into a very, very uncomfortable state when this thing happens. The core is threatened. The core of a human being is that the survival, like You get food, like I'm taking the same tool, I'm going for the hunting for the same 8-10 hours every day, but one person is getting food but I'm not getting food. So that means the core aspect of survival is threatened, and that moves on to a stress level. And when the stress prolongs, then you call it depression, or some kind of an inflammation, or inflammatory diseases affect us. Now that when it goes for a long time, it goes into lower life expectancy. That in a workplace, the same, this process is, if you have a team, all of us are putting the same kind of effort, one person is getting constantly appreciated, one person gets promoted, one person gets attention, one person gets everything, and the other people are not getting the same kind of attention, their core need is threatened. Though we have come very far as an evolutionary being, our core needs are threatened when we are not equally treated, or we are not given the right kind of appreciation or acknowledgement. And the core need is threatened, we feel stressed in the workplace, we develop a lot of inflammation diseases, lower life expectancy right now from a work perspective. That means low productivity, low low motivation, and the quality of work is going to be bad, and all of it. That's why equity becomes the core need of every individual. Now, talking about this, sorry guys. Yeah. So the equity is the core need. So that means care for someone, right? Now, equity, now is the right time in the COVID scenario. Can you prototype this equity at home? Are you treating the people at home in the base of equity? Are you treating everybody same? Is everybody participating in this particular scenario? Is everybody's core value is not threatened? Are they feeling comfortable being with you and talking or doing things together? So the equity is not between genders and just in the workplace, and it's a perfect opportunity for us to prototype something in the house. So when things open up, you could just prototype this idea into your workspaces, in your communities, in your social environment, and everything else, right? So what you need to do first thing is, when you talk about equity, it's about caring for the people. So the caring for your children, caring for your spouses, caring for your in-laws, caring for your neighbors. So there are different kinds of caring. So equity for you right now to remember, equity means caring so that the other person doesn't feel threatened, or the other person's survival instincts are not threatened. Okay, that's the fair and right way of treating someone in the workplace or at a home space. Now, we have a lot of places that we can talk about equity, but because of the shortage of time, I'm going to run you past a small thing of gender equity. Now, gender is a huge thing in the world. Everybody loves to talk about gender. You pick up a coffee, people talk about, like, how, which one is, like, are men good or women good? Is men bad? Man is a good leader, or a woman is a good leader. So we keep arguing about the equality of it, but we never get into the equity of it. For the first step to do it is for you to care for someone. The first thing that you need to do is you need to understand that particular person. And with this example of gender differences, I'm going to just explain to you a few of the things, but then there is a lot of things that we need to understand around this, right? So one of the things that we talk about in gender culture, why are we saying gender culture here, right? We like to see it as a culture. Say, for example, you see somebody from US, and suddenly for the first time you're going to be working with a person from a different continent or a different country. First thing that you try to do is try to understand their culture. If they do something weird, we say, oh, they come from that kind of a culture. Even between South India and North India, if you have to come and work in South India, the first thing you'll find it very different, right? People are eating weird, they're eating sambar and idlis and chutneys. And when the South Indian people come there, we talk about, like, the vada pav and then chapatis and things like that. So everything is different. Every 100 kilometers in India, everything is different. Now, when you see the first time somebody eating with a fork and a knife, when you are so accustomed to eating with your hand, when you see someone just chopping and sawing the food in the table, it feels weird. The first time you would have seen somebody eating with a chopstick, have you seen the Chinese eating with a chopstick? The first time that you see them taking the peanuts and putting it in their mouth with just two sticks, it feels weird. But we give them a benefit of doubt. We say, okay, they are from a different culture. They come, their understanding is different. So that's why they do things what makes sense to them. And we do things what makes sense to us. The first thing in equity is to understand, as human beings, we do things that make sense to us. That means another person does things what makes sense to them. So there is nothing called right or wrong in this one. So it between the gender culture also, if we are able to put it on culture, like men are from a different culture, women are from a different culture, though they are born and raised in the same environment, we have a completely different culture. When I say different culture, we behave differently, we talk differently, we process things in our brain differently. And that's why, there is always this fight between men and women, saying that men say, oh, women are very manipulative, and women say, oh, men are so mindless about things. This manipulative, the mindless, we think about it. But then you should understand, if you want to build equity in your workplace, you should understand men and women are from two different culture. Right. I'm going to give you some of the examples which is being done through studies across the world. So it starts from the childhood behavior, how it impacts us. Right. This childhood behavior, all of us know the pink and blue. Pink is for girls, blue is for boys. And it's actually scientifically proven that it's the color, and boys actually prefer blue over pink, or maybe it is stereotyped and gender spread across the world that everybody is picking up. So what they did is they put a lot of toddlers inside the room, a newborn toddlers, like who can crawl around and all of it. And then they said, like, they put a lot of different kinds of toys inside the room, and they wanted to do a study. And what happened was the girl babies, naturally went and picked up soft toys, teddy bears and Barbie toys and all of it. And the boys actually picked up something which had speed and noise and power to it, like a gun and a truck and things like that. And they found suddenly one of the boys picking up a Barbie doll. All right. So the scientists got curious. Oh my God. So there is nothing, there is no pattern. But what happened was the Barbie doll was fighting with the Hulk within 30 seconds. So irrespective of what the toys was, the childhood behavior is women are more, the girl babies are more into something cute, soft, relationship, caring, and things like that. And it was the result from the boy babies was they like something which has noise, speed, and power. Now this has a very, very big impact on our adulthood behavior as well, right? Because what happens is in the childhood, the boys think about win or lose. For them, that's a binary: I win or I lose. For women, for the girl babies, it's like being nice, and you win, I win kind of a scenario. If you look at it in the ground, the boys will take in their team the biggest of the boys, the meanest of the boys, because they want to win that particular cricket match or a football match. But if you see the girl child playing, they will just play with the nice girls. They'll say, oh, you're nice to me, then I'll take you in my team. This is, again, this is not very stereotypes. Sometimes if you're growing with boy children more in your household, you try to pick up a lot of those traits of win or lose. Wherein if you're a boy child and you're growing up with a lot of girls in the house, in a community where a lot of them are girls around you, maybe you pick up a win-win kind of an kind of a trait. So please understand that culture is not something just we develop when we're walking into the office. It is something that just goes with us naturally in our the way we behave. Now, there is another trait that we talk about is, the hierarchy or the flat structure. In workplaces, men believe in hierarchy. If I'm a boss, I'm the boss. They fit themselves there. But women look at it in a very flat structure. They like to involve people, they like to talk to people, they get down. You would notice this, if somebody comes and gives you a compliment that, oh, your dress is so beautiful, first reaction from a woman would be, oh, this was an old dress, no, this was just 150 rupees. That is your attempt to neutralize that hierarchy. You don't like that, that you're wearing the beautiful dress, that the hierarchy, you don't like it, so you flatten that structure. But if you go and tell a man that, oh, that's a beautiful car, then he'll immediately put his hierarchy in such a way that, yeah, I bought it, I did a hard work, and I saved a lot of money, and I'm proud that I got this. So there's a way of handling things. Command and control is what men are inclined to. Again, I'm going to remind you, it is not men and women, but if you grow up in a culture which are more male dominated culture, maybe you pick up that command and control in you. But if you grow up in an environment which is like feminist, female oriented, then you try to pick up some of those traits. So it's always mixed up. That's how our culture is. There's always a woman in a man and a man in a woman, they say, right? We always have that very gender fluid culture that we have. Now, command and control or involvement based, which one is good for an organization? Should I follow command and control, or should I follow involvement based? That again, both these leadership skills are very, very important. Sometimes it's a combination of it. Like right now in COVID scenario, the leadership in the Indian government cannot think of involvement. Let's take feedback from people. What do we do with COVID? No, their command and control works. They said like, okay, shut down, lock down, go inside the house. There's nobody can come out. That places command and control leadership works just fine, right? In certain situations where you need to involve people and you need to take feedback from people, then that involvement works. Again, team building, um, you know um, in terms of team building, right? When we went around, we did a session virtually a couple of weeks back, and we asked them like, what does team building mean? What exactly is teamwork? So one of the teams, the boys team, said like, teamwork means follow the orders to support unquestioningly. You just do it as a team. But there was a girls team, they came back and then said, working collaboratively and involving everybody is teamwork. Both of them are right. Both of them are right. Sometimes you need to have the balance of both these things. Okay. And you need to understand that if you are a woman leader and you have male under you and they are behaving a certain way, take a step back and think about what is the culture they're coming from. Like, why are they talking like that? Right? Why are they thinking differently? So equity is about giving that benefit of doubt to another gender and thinking from their angle. Are they talking from a command and control perspective or an involvement perspective? If you're a male leader and you have a lot of women in your team and they come and ask you for a lot of advices, that means the women like to get involved. They like to involve in your decision making skills. So that is also very important. Now, there is another important thing called goal focus and process focus. That's also very something that people are obsessed over. They say that men are goal focused, women are process focused. I'm going to give you some example out of the workplace, maybe. Say, for example, suddenly the wife says, let's go for shopping. I want to buy a black skirt. Okay. And the man in the house is waiting to watch a match in the evening, which starts at 7 o'clock. So he immediately looks at his watch and he says, okay, it's 3 o'clock now. I can take her to the mall, finish this work, and then bring her back by 7 o'clock so that I can watch the match. Okay. So he's very goal focused. So what he does, gets ready, takes her to the mall, takes her to the women showroom, takes her to the women's section, goes to that particular place where the skirts are hung, and then he picks up one of the black skirt. He also takes two other variables and he presents to his wife saying that, oh, here is your black skirt, choose one of it. Now women play their cards. Now for her, by then, it was not the shopping, because women enjoy the process. It's about driving in the car. It's about listening to music. It's about talking to your spouses. It's about just window shopping. And by the time women reach that black skirt, maybe they made the change in their mind. Maybe I don't need a black skirt. Maybe I need a sari. Now, this is when a man feels that he's been manipulated. Somebody lied to him and then dragged him into shopping when they didn't even have an intent to do the shopping. And women feel, oh my God, I just wanted to have this beautiful process and I wanted to spend that time with my husband. And my husband, he's not mindful of this. He's like completely not thinking about this. So this is where the conflict happens. So stop. In this example, remember this example every time you're dealing with an opposite gender. If they are doing something very different, stop, pause, and ask yourself, why are they behaving different? It's not that they are manipulative, it's not that they're mindless, but they process things differently. Right? When you're process oriented, they could be goal focused. When you're goal focused, they could be process oriented. So think of what exactly is happening. That cultural differences, if you start looking at it, that's when you can build that equity in your home or workplace. Try this at your home. Don't expect the same answers that you have in your mind. If your child is giving an answer, you're putting the child to like do the homework, and the child is giving you a little different answer. They want to play or something like that. Take a pause and understand where exactly they're coming from. That's when you could kind of build that equity in your home. And when you start doing it at home, it's easy for you to do it in your workplace. It's easy for you to do it with the strangers. It's easy for you to do it with your neighbors or just some random people on the floor, right? So I'm going to kind of take a little bit of pause and pass it on to Sunita to talk more about this interesting topic of equity. While I pass it on to Sunita, I also urge, like, if you have questions, keep putting it on the chat boxes, and we would pick it up at the end of the session, and we would love to discuss more. We'll open it for discussion, guys. Sunita, over to you.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Sunita, go ahead.
Lovely. Okay. All right. All right. So, guys, I'm going to talk a little bit more about stereotyping. And before we do, we're going to give you a quiz. Okay. So don't worry. Everyone looks tense. Like you guys are all CA. So you miss like, oh my God, I'm going to pass this. No, nothing like that. This is just a fun quiz to kind of get you to think about stereotyping. All right, so before we reveal the quiz to you, this is what will happen. You'll see 4 pictures. There'll be a question, and in the chat box, you need to say which of those 4 pictures you will choose. Okay, there's no right or wrong answer. It's not a competition. No one's going to win a prize. It just gives you an idea of where your thought is. So a lot of the work that we do when it comes to modeling equity is about some of the inner work, some of your inner reflections, and this will reveal that. All right, so Shubha, go. First quiz, right? So among these 4, one person is always late to work. Who do you think it is? Right, so you have to choose between the 4. And take the one that comes quickly to your mind. Okay, so we have a 1 from Nisha. Who else? Don't overthink. It's not an overthink. It's just what quickly comes to your mind. 1 from Zalak, 1 Tajani, 1 this guy. 1 seems to be very popular. Okay. There's 34 of you guys on this call, so I'm expecting to see a lot more input. Let's see, 4. So we got a 4 there. Okay. 1 from Anjali. Okay, I'm going to shut it down. And 1 or 4. Hello, Manisha. You're only supposed to choose 1. I specifically said only 1, but that's okay. All right. Okay, Manisha chooses 1. Meera chooses, Shah chooses 3. Interesting. Okay. Shika says 3. All right, I'm giving you 3 more seconds, and then we're going to close the quiz. Okay, so 3, 2, 1. All right. Okay. So, interesting. A lot of people chose number 1. All right, so go on to the next slide, Shubha. We have 1 more quiz. Oh, okay. 1 more quiz. All right, so in the first one, we had 1 that was the most popular. So this one is, who among the 4 do you think is most opinionated? Okay, so 3, 2, 1, go. Don't think too much, just whatever takes your time. Sorry, whatever it comes. 3, 1, 2, Oh, I see a mixed group here. 1, 4, 3, 2. Oh, much more group. 3. Okay, I'm giving you 5 more seconds. Come on, guys. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from you. This is an engagement. So we want to hear, what do you think? We don't want to be the ones talking all the time. We want to hear from you. So we hear a couple of threes. So there's 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we close the quiz. All right. So if we go on, and I think the next slide, okay, we're just going to pause here. We're going to pause here, and we're going to talk a little bit about what do we understand about stereotyping, all right? So the question is, how did you end up choosing these things? So when it comes to stereotyping, the first thing we want to do is we want to understand it. We want to understand where is it coming from, understand a little bit of science behind it, which is what I'm going to do in the next 20 minutes, giving you a very, very high overview because we don't really have time to go into a lot of depth. So when you stereotype, there's 3 things you do. One is you look at the behavior, you look at the attribute, and then you make a generalization about the behavior based on your past experience, right? And then you arrive at a belief that may or may not be true. So if we go back to picture 1, Shubha, right? So we ask the question, who was the latecomer, right? So the question is, what did you see? Right? So if I look at this group, you guys saw number 1, most of you chose number 1. We don't have a time to have an engagement today, but I'd maybe be curious, maybe in the chat box, you can share with me, why did you choose number 1 while I talk? Right? You saw this guy, maybe it's because he's young, he's a millennial, he looks like he's not like dressed very formally for work, and then you made a generalization. You know what? Somebody who's a millennial, somebody who's not dressed so formally at work, right, may not be somebody who takes their work seriously. And you came up with a belief that, you know what, this is something I've seen in the past. People who don't dress well at work. Maybe somebody in your family said, if you don't dress formally for work, you're not somebody who takes your work seriously. If you're somebody who's got your hair all scruffy, you cannot go to school like that because people will perceive you as not being serious. And you made up a belief, right? So 3 things happen. One, you saw a behavior, an attribute. 2, you made a generalization based on a past experience, something that you had in your family, something that you have friends, something that you've seen at work. And 3, you made up a belief that may or may not be true based on that generalization. Let's go to a picture number 2 again. Right, so we had a lot of 3s here. If we can go to the next picture, Shubha, please. So we had a few 3s over here. Again, what did you see? So you see somebody with the tattoos, not smiling, and with the long hair. We're looking at picture number 3 that was slightly more popular. And you made a generalization. You know, people with tattoos are not negotiable. They're really opinionated. People who don't smile are people who are not approachable. People who look very serious are people who have very loud opinions and who may force their opinion about you, because that's something you grew up with. That's how your family saw it. That's how your past schooling dictated about what was allowable and not allowable. Okay, so how is this all explained? How can we explain the stereotyping? So the first one that we have, the first model that we'll have to share with you is the iceberg principle, right? So whenever you see an iceberg, you see about 10% of the iceberg. 90% of the iceberg is not visible. Okay, so I'm going to say that again. Whenever you see an iceberg, only 10% is visible and 90% is below the waterline. And this actually is very similar to people, because when you see somebody, you only see 90% of them. You only see how do they behave, how do they dress, how do they act, what language do they speak, what are their facial expressions, what are their body language, what is their gender, what is their title. But what you don't see is the 90%, okay? You don't see how that person grew up. You don't know about their beliefs. You don't know about their values, their religion, their family upbringing, their education, maybe their fears, maybe their failures. But you look at that 10%, right? Going back to that picture, you saw that young guy and you made a generalization about that belief based on a past experience, right? So we talk about that already, right? Maybe you grew up in a household where they said X, Y, Z, tattoos are bad, that young people always behave in an irresponsible way. But you're making up that story based on 10%, right? You do not know the 90%. So for example, if in your house, the authority figure was an older man, okay, who you were not allowed to push back, who you were not allowed to question, by that most probably a father, maybe an uncle, maybe a grandfather, and suddenly you come to work and you have a line reportee who's much younger, right? And who's pushing back all the time, right? Who makes you feel uncomfortable, who keeps on questioning you. Why? Why do I need to do this, Sunita? Why do I have to comply to your decision making, right? You grew up in a household where you're not allowed to push back, and that person was male, and now somebody much younger is breaking that stereotype. Okay. Another example might be maybe someone speaks better English, right? That 10%, you see that 10%, and they speak great English, they're really articulated, they know how to express themselves. How does that make you feel? By looking at that 10%, does it provoke your story, right? Because you grew up in an environment that said, oh, people who speak good English get better money. The people who speak good English get better opportunity. People who speak good English are more likely to succeed in X, Y, and Z. Right? But your story becomes challenged. Okay? So, for example, you might have a woman boss who's very loud, or a man boss who's very soft. And that is just not how you grew up, right? So when you're faced with a situation, what can you do? What can you do? Because look at the picture that you chose in the first photo and the second photo, and ask yourself, what was the story you were telling yourself, and where did it come from, and is it really true? Right? Do you know somebody who's got a tattoo and is very mild-mannered? Do you know somebody who doesn't smile but actually is very kind and very warm and very gentle? In order to expand your awareness, you need to think about who breaks that stereotype. Okay, all right, so that's the mental model, that is the iceberg principle. Let's move on to the next slide, Shiva, please. So we have one more quiz over here, right? So we want to know, out of these 4 pictures, who do you think is the CEO? Who do you think is the CEO? Not too much thinking. Who is the most likely? So see it in the chat box. 3, okay? We think 3 is the CEO. Kruti thinks it's 3. What about others? Come on, guys, 4. Okay, someone thinks it's number 4. Third, 27 people. Apparently, it seems 4, says Hinal. Okay. Couple more. 4, 2, 4, 2. Okay. It seems all 2. All of them. Oh, so we have some very clever people here. 2. Okay, so I'm going to shut down. 5, 4. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, somebody was right. There's a couple of people who knew it. Yeah, all 4 are CEOs. Yeah, so that kind of makes you wonder, how is that? What am I saying to myself? What are some of my preconceived notions? So Shubha, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. This can be explained by something called the mental model of success. So the mental model of success is a preconceived notion of what success looks like. Okay, what does success look like? How does it act? How does it behave? How does it talk? What gender is it? So if everybody on this call, if I ask you to close your eyes, okay, for 1 second, everybody close your eyes and imagine a picture of a nurse, right? What did you think? Most likely you thought about a woman, right? Most likely you thought about a young woman or maybe a middle-aged woman. Okay, keep your eyes closed. What happens if I asked you to think about a truck driver? Right? Most probably you thought about a man. Again, maybe a middle-aged man, maybe an older man. What happens if I ask you to think of an IT coder? Okay, somebody who's in development. Most likely you may have thought of men and women. Usually in my sessions, it's 50-50, but definitely you thought about somebody who was young. You didn't think of somebody who was over 50. Yeah. So we have, you guys can go ahead and open your eyes, right? We have an image of what success look like. But is this really true? Do you have to be a certain gender or age to be more successful? Or do you just have to have the capability, the skills, and the willingness to learn, and nothing more than that, right? So if you take an example. So what Apple did was, the company Apple, they wanted to find out, what does success look like in Apple, right? Apple has a global footprint, right? And they wanted to know, what does success look like in Apple? What does the leadership team look like? What are you expecting? And what they found was that in Apple, the leadership team and success looks like a Caucasian means white, or Asian man. Asian man is somebody not from India, but from South Asia, someone from Japan or China or Korea. So they re-looked at their hiring strategy, because when it comes to success, it cannot look like a certain gender, it cannot look like a certain age, but must be based purely on capability. So you know what? It's possible that somebody after the age of 50, after doing their service, maybe they were a homemaker, maybe they worked in the military, and they said, you know what, I want to have another career. And they go back and they learn Cobra, or they learn whatever that, tech, machine learning or AI, and they restart their career. They have capability, they have knowledge, and they can go back. But the chances are that when they go for hiring, when they go for recruitment, somebody sees somebody who's older and says, I never thought about that. Somebody who's older cannot fit into my mental model of success of what an IT developer looks like. All right, so moving on to the next slide. Where is this coming from, right? Where is this coming from? Are we doing it on purpose? Is that why we're ending up having this bias? No, it's not. It's because of the way our brain is built. So we tell everybody, if you have a brain, you have bias. That's the bottom line. And the work that we do only increases your awareness about it. You cannot come to a place where you have no bias. It's not going to happen. But you can be more cognizant and you can be more mindful. So what does the science say? The science says that at any one time, you are processing 11 million bits of information consciously and unconsciously. Okay, so 11 million bits of information is being processed, out of which only 40 is being processed consciously. So that means 99.99999% of the time, you are unconscious of what is happening in your mind. So this is just one part of it. The other part of it is that your brain also tells you, are you safe or are you unsafe, based on a past experience. So for example, in the past, if you were a boy and somebody teased you when you were young because you were crying and the boys in the class teased you, you would learn that it is unsafe to cry as a man. Okay, so the brain tells you, are you safe or unsafe, not just physically, but emotionally, psychologically, and mentally. So the brain makes that decision for you. And the brain makes that decision within 30 milliseconds. Right? That's a very short time. So imagine you're having a heart attack, you're lying in the hospital, and you see a female cardiologist. I used to work in the pharmaceutical industry. I've never seen a female cardiologist, by the way, right? And you get, oh my God, I do not want to be in this hospital. I want to have a male cardiologist, because in your mind, the mental model of success tells you that I cannot be having a female cardiologist. So another thing that happens with your brain is that when you are threatened, you actually have a physical reaction, right? When people come in who do not fit your mental model of success, who build a story, you actually start sweating. Your heart rate goes up, your eyes start to dilate, you become extremely, extremely uncomfortable. So you are working against your brain when it comes to bias. It is 99% of the time unconscious. It's making a decision whether it's safe or unsafe. And not only that, you are having a physical reaction. That means when you're in the office and there's somebody who you are uncomfortable with, you are going to go all the way around the office just to avoid them because you do not want to interact. And that's not you consciously, that is you unconsciously, and that's where your brain is working from. So what can you do about it? Is there a pill? Can I tell you, oh, take this medicine and you're going to be less biased? No. There is no magic pill. The only thing you can do is build your self-awareness. And it's not going to happen overnight because this is decades of programming into your brain. Give yourself some self-understanding. Just be aware of what you are thinking, much like that photo. Look at when you get onto a bus and say, who do you sit next to in a bus? Think about when you go into a party. Who do you gravitate towards when you go to a party? Are they people who you feel comfortable with? And can you mingle with people who are outside of your comfort zone? So you can stop, you can pause, and you can reflect, and you can ask yourself some questions. And that is how we can maybe have more awareness about bias. All right, so moving on to the next slide. We've talked a little bit about bias. We've talked a little bit about stereotyping. Now we want to know one of the things that we're suggesting on how to overcome this is to learn to partner, right? The way we have survived as human beings for millions and millions of years is only as a collective. We're not going to be as a lone woman, as a lone man, we're not going to be able to change things. We need to be able to partner with everyone, to collaborate with everyone. And by the way, when I say partner, I'm not just talking about the home front, or we're talking about a spouse. It could be anybody. It could be somebody at work. It could be your in-laws. It could be your children. It could be somebody who's cross-functional. It could be somebody who's white collar, who's blue collar, who's junior, who's senior. How can we partner? Because when we partner, we're able to thrive. We're able to, as a collective, survive and go into not just surviving, but thriving, and to be able to become more successful. So when it comes to partnering, what actually blocks you? Well, the first thing that blocks you is asking for help. You know, people see asking for help as a sign of weakness and not as a sign of strength. So you think about it. Think about when you had your boss and your boss said, you know what, Sunita, I want some help with the PPT, right? When they were vulnerable, did you think to yourself, oh my God, they're being vulnerable. This is a sign of weakness. Or did you think this is a sign of strength? My boss has asked me for help. My boss has enough courage to say, I don't know how to do this well, and I need some help from you and the rest of your team, right? What else blocks you from partnering? Trusting other people, believing other people. This is something, again, that we have a lot of challenge with. But the fact of the matter is, if you don't trust other people and believe other people, you're going to end up making all the decisions by yourself. And there's this thing called decision fatigue. Decision fatigue is when you have made so many decisions, you're tired of making the decisions. You end up making all the small decisions as opposed to really spending energy on making the big decisions. So that's why Steve Jobs every day wore just blue jeans and a black top, so that he could spend his energy on making the big decisions and not have decision fatigue. So if you are going to partner, how are you going to do it? So one of the things that we always say is start with yourself. A lot of the narrative that me and Shubha talk about is not about changing other people, but thinking about how can you change your point of view? How can you change your mindset? So ask yourself, right? What are some assumptions you have about gender? What is the story you're telling yourself? What is it based on? Is it always true? Is it true that a senior vice president can't be under 35? Do you know any exception? Is it logical? What else do you need to know to shift your perception? And if you shift your perception, how can you change your experience? So ask yourself that question, right? Listen to understand your partners. Ask questions to understand. Be curious. Try to understand a new perspective. Right? When you're talking to your partners, that's your in-laws, that's your parents, that's your kids, that's people at work. Don't ask, why can't you take up more responsibility and ownership? Right? Ask instead, what can this do for your career trajectory? What's blocking you? I love to understand. Listen to understand. Put aside your own self-talk and listen actively. Listening actively is when I'm completely present to what you're saying, as opposed to listening passively. So listening passively is Shubha's talking, then I'm thinking, oh, shall I have sambar for lunch? What am I going to do this afternoon? I have to pay my taxes. No. Listening actively is that I'm fully present, right? You cut off your constant inner chatter and you watch people, what they're saying, what they're not saying, the pauses they take, the non-pauses they take, their facial expressions, so they feel fully understood. And once they are understood, you can also ensure that you paraphrase from them. So what I understand from you, Shubha, is X, Y, and Z. So what I understand from you, Kruti, is that you have a challenge doing the childcare because of X, Y, and Z. It's just listening to understand. Yeah. So now that you've done the inner work, what can you do now? Work with your partner. Define your roles and responsibilities. Write it down. It always becomes clear, whether it's your kids, whether it's your spouse, whether it's work. Write it down so that people know the schedule. So it's a win-win schedule. And by the way, win-win isn't 50-50. You're looking for equity and not equality, which means that this week I do more cooking and you do the childcare, and next week we'll swap because this week I have a deliverable to make. When you are partnering with people, think about delegating. Delegating with starting small. Don't ask them to make the biryani. Start with boiling the eggs. Start with making them help you make the tea. Right? Start small so that you don't get decision fatigue, so that people around you can help you in where you are going to build success. Train people around you, right? Train people in to be more setting goals, to have empathy, to have setting vision, to be more inclusive, to building trust, to having delegation. Train the people around you. And you can train them not just in these things, but in life skills. Their life skills are, you know, anything from swimming, anything from making, cooking Maggie, to being able to clean the toilet. Train the people around you. Delegate and train so that it alleviates you to work on the more important things. When you empower people, empower them through appreciation, reward them, independent of the outcome. So maybe you ask somebody to make the omelette and it comes as a scrambled egg. Don't criticize them, appreciate them and say, you know what, this is really tasty and has a unique shape. Be kind, be compassionate, be understanding, because when we're trying to empower through appreciation, you will find that people step up. It's easier to build from your strengths than it is to build from your weaknesses. So think about people at work, who you team up with. Think about, don't believe me, you try. Go out and see. Appreciate somebody from a week and see what changes. See where the needle moves. See if they'll go the extra mile for you. See what is the change in attitude that they have. Yeah. And then when it comes to partnering with people, have fun. Make sure you laugh. Make sure you play with it. Be curious. Explore. You know what? If the white shirt, when you are training people in your house, if the white shirt turns pink, it's okay. Have a laugh about it. You don't have to be so serious. Because when we are partnering, there are going to be times when things go right and when things go wrong. So I leave you with this exercise as we finish up. And the exercise is getting you to say the words, how wonderful. When you're learning to partner, maybe somebody in your house, maybe your spouse brings you a cup of coffee, but the coffee is too strong. And instead of saying, oh, this coffee is too strong, you can say, you know what? I love that you bought me this coffee at the right time. Maybe your domestic help, and by the way, your domestic help, especially for women, is one of our partners. Maybe your domestic help doesn't feed your child the way you want to be fed, right? So instead of saying, oh, you didn't do it this way, you didn't do it, just say, you know what? I love the fact that you fed him all this nutritious food. Maybe next time you can try something different, right? How wonderful it is that you have helped me today. So I leave you with this thought. How many times in a day can you say how wonderful when things don't go right? Because when we're trying new things, things may not go right. When we have more awareness, when we have no bias, and we're trying to step outside of our comfort zone, things may not go the way. But can you accept things the way they are and just say how wonderful, appreciate the moment, be really present to the moment, and move on. All right. Thank you so much. So Kriti, we'd like to now open it up for some questions.
Yeah. It was really very inspiring session, I would say. It just changed the whole perspective of our thinking. We were thinking of men, women, equality, but the term you itself defined equity, it was just inspiring. I mean, it was like, oh, what we are thinking and what we should think. What we were thinking is like why they are doing this, but now we're thinking in depth regarding what is the actual reason why they are behaving like that. So this was really very important thing that we had to understand, that understanding their culture, that was really very thing which I think it was to take into it. So I would also request all of the participants, if anyone would like to ask any questions to our faculties.
There is an interesting question, Sunita. Do you want to take this? I'll read the question. Can you share how women can involve men in the process?
Absolutely. You know what? One of the things that Shubha and I talk a lot about is men allyship. There are a lot of men who support women, who empower women. And I think that one of the things that we talk about is to how to dialogue with our male allies and our male champions. Talk to those. I'm sure if I asked you, what is one man who really helped contribute to your success? Right? We can all think of many. We can maybe think of our spouses, our partners, our brothers, our fathers, and think about having a conversation with them, observing them. Think about how they help build you up, and having that conversation with your children. I think about my son all the time. I'm having a conversation with him daily on how about equity. You know, it's not something we're all, if I look at this team, maybe the average age is about 30, 35. But it's almost too late then. You know, we need to start with our children. We need to open up this conversation in the office, be transparent, think about who can we involve and how can they support us. I hope that addressed the question. So we have a question here, how to make sure the ego of men is taken care of? Shubha, I'm going to let you answer that.
That's a very interesting question. So every time we go for sessions, people ask these questions to us, right? I mean, you put it in a different way, but then people ask us like, how do we manage men in house, or how do we manage women in the workplace? My answer to this question is like, we can't manage people. We can't manage people, but think of it, how can you collaborate with people? Right, instead of thinking how do I manage that person, think of how do I collaborate. That's why we put partnering with people as one of a very key point. If you want to build equity, it's not about managing them or tuning them to our own frequency, or making them to think the way we are thinking. That means they would become you. If Kriti wants her spouse to think like her, then she has another Kriti at home. That will be more boring. Right, you can't manage people, you cannot tune people. But how do I collaborate? Because each one of us bring in a very unique talent with us. And when we collaborate, you'll realize sometimes you give in only 40% and another person gives in 60%. Like how Sunita said, equity is about not 50-50, but sometimes 80-20 or 30-40 or something like that. You share that kind of a thing. And collaboration works. Even in a workplace, you don't manage teams anymore. They're not your kids. You're not like a school teacher, or where you command and everybody does it. Gone are those days. It doesn't work. Even in a hierarchy driven organization, it doesn't work that way. You cannot manage your team members, but you collaborate with your team members. Look at what their plus points are. Leverage those plus points. Look at where they are kind of faltering. Try and equip them there, empower them there. So that's the way to do with that. Nothing can change the ego. And I always confidently believe that ego is something not just men have. I think ego is something every human has. So yeah, that's a good question, but yeah.
And it could be a bias as well that we think all men have ego. Do you
Yes.
know a man who doesn't have ego? Right? How many men do we know that don't have ego? I know lots of men. I'm sure you do as well. So it's not all men. So we just want to be mindful that we don't generalize based on a past experience.
Right. There's one more question before I answer Kriti's question. She wants to know about Agua more.
Just to
Yeah, Anjali.
sorry for the interruption. In line with my second question, thank you for the tips and techniques to manage men
Don't
ego.
manage.
Yeah. So to take this further, of course, that works, that we have to empower them in areas where they are comfortable. We have to we have to make them calm when things happen. Agreed. But sometimes things go beyond control. We tried our best, but at times people need to take time. People, in fact, people should be given time to understand what has absorbed, what has happened. So in that scenarios, what we should do, we should give them time and come back, or in that time also we should soothe them, we should calm them. How do we go about it?
I think having a conversation, I think Sunita picked up this point when she was talking about having a conversation makes a lot of difference. Instead of asking them questions like, instead of asking why question, ask what question. That's what Sunita left a tip for you, right? So instead of asking why did this go wrong, or why did you mess up this particular thing, or why did you not come on time, or why did you not finish the project on time? So the more we
Hmm,
put why, you
hmm,
only distance with that person,
hmm,
right?
hmm, hmm, hmm,
You don't reach the resolution. But when you
hmm,
ask
hmm.
like what, the what question would be very difficult to ask, but then what question will make the opposite person think about it. What
Hmm,
made you do this? What made
hmm,
throw the remote in the house and break the remote? That's
hmm,
the common
hmm,
thing that
hmm.
happens. So instead of like why did you throw the remote, ask them what made them throw it, right? So when you
Correct.
ask them, that gives an opportunity for the other person to think about their own actions and reflect on it, and then they might come back and then say, okay, I got irritated with this. It's like something like that, and then that could be a possible conversation for a resolution, you know
Correct, correct,
yeah.
Mhm.
correct, correct. So communication is the key. Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Okay,
also want to add
lovely.
here.
Lovely
Um,
talking to you. One more question in line with this.
Anjali, before we move on, I just add to what Shubha said very quickly, and that is you said that you cannot control, right? You said there's
Right.
how the other person reacts is not within your control.
Hmm.
Absolutely, it's not. How they understand, how they don't understand is not within your control. So we
Right.
always ask this as a coaching question: what is within your control? So let's forget about what's not in your control because we can't change that. But what
Correct.
is in your control is a conversation we can have because that's going to give you a solution. So, what's in your control is what you say, what you don't say, your emotions, your body language, the words that you use. All of that, your mindset is within your control. So, if we make a list of what's in our control, there's actually quite a lot of things in our control that can then impact other people. It may or may not impact, but the focus is to keep on that.
Lovely. Lovely.
Ma'am, to
Thank you
that
so
I
much.
want to add that sometimes mostly women are coming to the situation that the glass is full of water and you need to add more water. How will you do this? And without actually, you first need to get the water out and then you can refill it. So you cannot
Yes.
fill a full water glass. That's
Absolutely, absolutely. You need to change your perspective and open for learning and unlearning things. You have to. Sometimes the mistake, we always look at it saying that the mistake is another person's mistake, but look at what you can change, what you can tweak in yourself to make the situation better. So, Jalak, that was a good one. That was a good one. Yes.
Kruti, I'm going to actually have to sign out. I said to you I have to leave 10 minutes early today. So I'm going to leave Shubha to take the rest of the call, rest of the questions, and I'm going to sign out. All right. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for your time. I look
Thanks,
forward to
Anita.
speaking to you again.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much, Sunita.
Bye.
It was
Thank
very
you
Thank
so
nice
much,
you.
ma'am.
meeting you. Bye bye.
I'm going to take a few seconds to address one other question. I think this is from Zalak. Have you come across any corporates where women leadership have made a great difference? You're looking at one. Yeah, I've been in corporate for 20 long years, and I'm a Six Sigma Master Black Belt. I don't know if that rings a bell for you guys. And then I'm a auditor for ISO and ISMS, and I've been all along for 20 years doing service excellence and business transformation. Do they make a difference in an organization? Yes, I reached up to a senior director level, and I did make a lot of transformational changes. And I proudly put it in my resume also, saying that I've saved up to $170 million for the companies that I work for. So it is not about which gender you are, but then if you do the right thing, if you constantly work towards your career goals, anybody can achieve it, whether a man or a woman, doesn't make a difference at all. And I've learned this personally, being a woman in India and working for the corporates, and where there are policies, and we are talking about glass ceiling, we are talking about inequality, we are talking about lack of opportunity, lack of payment and things like that. We're talking about a lot of things, but in practical, it's about your grit, it's about your resilience, it's about your strength. If you want to do it, you will do it no matter what. So there is nothing, no excuse at all. You can't give, there is a glass ceiling and all. I have shattered many glass ceilings in the companies that I work for, and I always vouch for that. So yeah. So just keep the confidence. Don't worry about like, oh, are there women who have achieved? In fact, by data, if you look at it, there are only 2% of women who are CEOs in India. 2%. 88 and 98% are men, but that doesn't make a difference. Women are doing great things in different fields. You don't have to check only on the corporates. Does corporate count all the chartered accountants as well? No, right? See, you guys are doing amazing jobs. Why are they not counting all the leaders in the other fields as well? People should be counting all of that. So when they say corporate, it's very easy to measure. So they just put it across. All right, guys. Thank you, Shika, for that comment. And do we have any more questions?
Please tell more on AGUA, Women Empowerment.
Okay, so it's pronounced agua. Agua means water, and it was started 12 years back. When we were working, we started this as like a part-time thing, and we created a network. It's a sisterhood. It's like a friendship circle. We are like 2,500 members in Agua right now, and we spread across globally, not just in India, but people are representing from different parts of the world as well. And we believe in 4 pillars in Agua. We talk about self-love, self-empowerment, self-leadership, and self-mastery. And we always believe you want to be a leader, do your inner work. It all starts from your heart. So it's about, we work with a lot of people. We do coaching and mentoring with a lot of women, specific. We work with a lot of women. Um, and we talk about self-love, how self-love can make you a leader, because self-love can change the way you think about yourself. Forget about what people are thinking about you. When you have enough self-love, you think about yourself, you will work on yourself, you will fill up all of those gaps that you have in yourself, and that will empower you, and you become a self-leader, with your discipline and everything. So we actually believe in this concepts, and we do programs across India. We do a lot of free conferences. We work with tribal women. We work with students. We work with sports women on mental strengthening and other things. So that's what we do. There's quite a lot of interesting work that we do around that. All right, guys. So if you don't have any more question, I think it's time for me to take a leave. All of you make a wonderful day ahead of you, and we'll talk to you soon. And over to you, Kruti.
Yeah, thank you so much, Subha. So I would like to call Zalak for the formal vote of thanks. So Zalak, please take over it.
Okay, so thank you so much, Shubha ma'am, also to the Sunitha ma'am for giving us a powerful start to the Saturday morning. I mean, you gave us a totally different view on the equality and gender diversity and inclusion in this ever challenging, unplugged professional as well as personal journey. Thank you so much, ma'am. It was
Thank you.
a wonder. We had a wonderful time to have you.
Thank you. Pleasure being here, guys. Pleasure being here.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much.
Yeah, we can wind up here.
All right, guys. Talk to you all soon, and have a good day. Bye-bye.
Have a good day to you too, ma'am.
Bye.